It is said that the crown princess is a designated empress, but Wen Jing, who has been working hard under her stepmother for many years, is still very satisfied with this marriage. Although Crown Prince Jiang Xufeng's situation is not very good, Wen Jing adheres to the principle of loving his profession and can be considered diligent. Unexpectedly, looking at the warm and gentle crown prince is a black boy. Wen Jing rose from the position of crown princess to empress, but the road ahead was long and she had to continue to work hard. The crown princess is so charming that Her Royal Highness bends over. Keywords of the novel. The great event of becoming a crown princess. No pop-ups, the complete collection of Becoming a Crown Princess download, the latest chapter of Becoming a Crown Princess read. Chapter 1. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1. The weather in March is not warm yet, but it's also time to wear spring clothes. At the general's mansion in Zhenbei, Wen Jing sat in the main seat, and all the women and daughters of the Wen family had arrived. Wen Jing lightly brushed her fingernails with bright red cardamom over the teacup, watching with great interest as the people inside the room flattered her. The aunt of the second room, Yu Shi, is a smooth person. She has been talking non-stop since Wen Jing entered the door. She had never admired the demeanor of her sister-in-law, so she said, "It is said that the crown prince is a fairy-like young man, with a jade tree and a beautiful appearance compared to Pannon. I see that the young lady has been living well these days, and her complexion is better than when she was still at home." The meaning of this statement was somewhat pointed out, and the third wife, Lady Lu, held a handkerchief to cover her smile at the corner of her mouth. The eldest wife, Jiang Shi, and Wen Jing's stepmother had a somewhat unpleasant expression, which only hindered Wen Jing's current identity. Wen Qiong, the third eldest daughter of the Jiang family, remained unchanged and sat steadily. Wen Jing just gave a faint smile, she wouldn't have helped the Jiang family out. On the other hand, Wen Xian, the second legitimate daughter of the Yu family, looked at Wen Jing with a smile and hurriedly said, "Mother said, it's only 3 days since big sister left the house, but I miss her very much. I want to talk to big sister privately later." When in the boudoir, Wen Xian never appeared to be as respectful to Wen Jing as anyone else, but secretly mocked her for not having a mother to protect her and made fun of her. On the contrary, he has been helping himself everywhere, and the relationship between Wen Jing and her has always been better. Wen Xian spoke up, but Wen Jing still gave face and a sincere smile. "Okay, after we finish eating, you come to my room and we'll talk quietly. Big girl, don't just spoil second girl. We, also care about big girl. We've talked to each other several times these days." Upon hearing Wen Jing's words, Lu became a bit anxious and tugged at the wrist of the 6 girls next to her, causing Wen Ying to stumble. Wen Ying is somewhat inexplicable. She is not familiar with her elder sister and has even stolen her jewelry several times, so there's not enough time to hide. Wen Ying saw her mother staring at her and could only respond with a dry, Without a word from Wen Jing, the scene suddenly became somewhat awkward. Jiang glanced sideways at Lu and sneered inwardly. Wen Jing is just an immature white-eyed wolf, climbing high branches and turning a wild chicken into a phoenix. These people are actually trying to curry favor. With a reputation and temperament like Wen Jing, can you live comfortably in the crown prince's mansion? If it were her daughter, Jiang Shi would be so angry that she clenched the handkerchief in her hand. Wen Jing's mother was the original wife of Wen Jinan, the general of Zhenbei. Su came from a family of civil servants and had a gentle and virtuous temperament. Wen Jinan and Su Shi are a young couple with a great relationship, but unfortunately Su Shi is not in good health and has been married for many years without pregnancy. When Su had eaten all the folk remedies and was feeling disheartened, she suddenly became pregnant. This child has been the expectation of the couple for many years, and Su naturally worked hard to keep the child. However, Su was already weak, and a child took away all her energy and spirit. Wen Jing was only born a month ago, and Su passed away due to illness. Wen Jinan was heartbroken and placed his emotions towards the Su family on his daughter, doting on her in every way possible. However, he had been guarding the border for years and was unable to do so. He had to listen to his mother's advice and marry his stepwife, Jiang. As for stepmothers, there are very few who can treat their original children as if they were their own. With Wen Jinan's favor towards Wen Jing, Jiang dared not mistreat Wen Jing. However, it is possible to manipulate in other places. For example, Wen Jing is not proficient in writing and ink, and has only read simple poetry in books, qin, chess, calligraphy and painting. Only the characters are well written, and I learned from a wet nurse. The reputation of Wen Qiong, who was associated with Jiang's reputation outside, is also one heaven and one earth. Wen Jing didn't understand when she was a child, but she lived with her temperament every day and was very happy. If it weren't for the wet nurse, I wouldn't know what it looks like now. At the beginning of the year, the emperor married the eldest daughter of the general of Zhenbei and the Crown Prince Jiang Xufeng as the crown princess. They got married 3 days ago, and today is the day when Wen Jing returns home. After admiring everyone's expressions, Wen Jing stood up and said, "Madam, Auntie, I should go visit the old lady." Lu's expression was somewhat casual, while Jiang also stood up with a preaching tone. The old lady is still remembered in the young lady's heart. The etiquette is more comprehensive than before, so I feel at ease. The dining room is ready, and the kitchen has prepared what the young lady loves. Maybe it's not as good as what's in the Crown Prince's mansion. The young lady has been eating for many years, so I'm sure she's not used to it. Wen Jing was walking on the path to the Buddhist temple. The old lady had been indifferent a few years ago and had built a Buddhist temple in the backyard. There were no major events that could happen. Madame Ji is really outrageous, and there's also the Lu family. Now it's this kind of expression, so it turns out. Lan Qian, a first classmate following Wen Jing, whispered to Lan Tiao next to her. Lan Tiao first looked up at Wen Jing walking in front of her, then pulled Lan Qian's sleeve and said, "All right, Empress Dowager is now the Crown Prince's concubine, and Lady Ji is also quick to talk like this. Empress Dowager is not even angry, so don't worry about it blindly." What else did Lan Qian want to say? Seeing Lan Tiao's gaze, she stopped talking. The distance was so close that Wen Jing could hear it. Lan Tiao had been following her since childhood. Lan Qian has a quick temper and can't hold back her words, but she also said it privately that there has been no mistake in doing things for so many years. As for Jiang, it is false to say that Wen Jing does not dislike it. Crown Prince Jiang Xufeng is going to accompany her back to the house today, but her father is not in the capital. She doesn't want Jiang Xufeng to follow and make faces for the remaining people in the mansion. As soon as she entered the Crown Prince's mansion and had not yet established herself, these people began to anxiously borrow money. Cigarettes curled up in the old lady's Buddhist temple, and she knelt in front of the niche with her back to Wen Jing, never turning back when she heard any movement. Chen Mama, who was serving the old lady, stepped forward and said, "I have seen the Crown Princess and Empress Dowager. She is blessed with peace and prosperity. Grandma, there's no need to be too polite. I'll come back today to greet my grandmother." When Jingshu helped and gestured for Lan Tiao to take the gift for the old lady. Grandma Chen took the box with both hands, which contained a piece of sheep fat white jade called Rui. The jade was soft and smooth, and it looked like a top quality item. Grandma Chen turned her head to look at the old lady, who still had no reaction and was reciting Buddhist scriptures. Chen Mama smiled at Wen Jing and then said, "Miss, please forgive me. The old lady doesn't like to be interrupted while reciting scriptures. Miss, I have one heart, and I will convey it to her. It's okay." Wen Jing was very talkative, nodded slightly, and said a polite word before leaving. Then Grandma Chen should take good care of her grandmother and make sure she pays attention to her health. Grandma Chen looked at Wen Jing's back and sighed. At first, the old lady was also very satisfied with Mrs. Su, but later Mrs. Su was not pregnant for a long time, and the old man refused to take a concubine. The relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law has not been as good as before, and since then, Su has been desperately giving birth to a daughter, which has made the old lady even more dissatisfied. It was not until Jiang entered the door that the eldest master had a legitimate son at the age of over 30. The old lady regretted not choosing the right wife for her son and never liked the big girl. She had been indifferent for so many years. How innocent a child is. Who could have imagined that a young girl would have the current fate? Open a new article. Or choose the type of writing that I am good at. All the final interpretation rights in the article belong to me. Welcome to ask questions, I will answer in the speech. Thank you to the little cutie who always voted for the recommendation for the previous book. I have seen it all. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Wen Jing finished his meal and returned to his bedroom in the mansion. There are servants cleaning here every day, but it is spotless. Wen Jing drew a few books from the bookshelf. The solitary books in the Crown Prince's mansion were still too difficult for her, and she should read some basic things. While rummaging through the clutter, Wen Jing discovered the wallet that the wet nurse had made for her before. Thinking of the wet nurse, she couldn't help but laugh and say, "Did someone go to see the wet nurse? I don't know if she's doing well on the farm." "Don't worry, madam. Sister Zhuyun has already gone, and madam will know tonight." Lan Tiao took the things from Wen Jing's hand and carefully sorted them out before taking them back. Zhuyun and Zhuyue were two other first-class maids beside Wen Jing, who were assigned by the imperial attendant. They were both steady and conscientious in their temperament and work. Wen Jing has been using it smoothly these days, and the rest still needs to be seen again. The master and servant were talking, and the little girl at the door came to report the arrival of Miss Eyre. Before Wen Xian could even bow, she was helped by Wen Jing. Wen Xian didn't know what was wrong, and her eyes turned red and her voice choked up. "Big sister. What's going on? But someone in the mansion is bullying you. I'm the Crown Princess now, I can definitely support you." Wen Jing's tone rose, deliberately teasing Wen Xian. Wen Xian was indeed amused and shyly wiped the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief, saying, "You've made Big Sister laugh. I used to stay with Big Sister in the past. Big Sister got married, little sister." Wen Jing patted the back of Wen Xian's hand. "Her second sister is sincere, pure, and kind-hearted, with the best personality in the entire Wen family. Even the old lady likes this granddaughter." "Big sister," Wen Xian hesitated for a moment, but lowered her voice with a hint of concern and asked, "Your Highness, is it easy to get along with? Did you make things difficult for Big Sister?" Wen Jing was taken aback for a moment, then smiled and said, "I'm doing pretty well. Your Highness, as the outside world says, is a gentle person. Don't worry." Wen Xian breathed a sigh of relief, frowned after thinking for a moment, and said, "Big sister, those two good ladies are both from noble families, and the Song family is the niece of the Empress Dowager." Wen Jing felt a bit helpless. As a shrewd person like you sure, her daughter didn't follow her and said, "I am always the Crown Princess and the legitimate wife. I have been watching these days, and your Highness treats both of them equally. There is nothing special about them." Wen Jing didn't plan to say much. After saying too much, Wen Xian didn't understand. She then changed the topic and said, "Don't just talk about me. How are you? How is your marriage to the Yan family going?" Upon hearing this, Wen Xian's cheeks immediately turned red and she whispered back, "We have set a wedding date for next month." Wen Xian was married to the eldest son of Yan De, a third-rank imperial censor. Yu and Lady Yan had a childhood friendship, and Yan Degong and Wen Xian were also childhood friends. Yan Gongzi Wen Jing has met several times, gentle and courteous. Although he has already arranged a child marriage with Wen Xian, he also follows the rules and etiquette in his daily interactions. 2 years ago, he passed the imperial examination again and now he also holds an official position. Wen Jing showed a happy expression and quickly said, "Why don't you send someone to tell me so that I can add makeup to you? Mother said that big sister has just married into the Crown Prince's mansion and it's not easy to disturb her." Wen Xian was also happy and smiled shyly. "If that's the case, you're my sister. How could you call me a disturbance?" The gossip between Wen Jing and Wen Xian continued until evening. It's not early, so Wen Jing should go back to the Crown Prince's mansion. The female family members followed out to see her off again. As they were almost at the door, the servant hurriedly came and said, "Madam, Miss, the Crown Prince's carriage has arrived. They said they are here to pick up Mississippi." For a moment, everyone's expressions varied, both intentionally and unintentionally looking at Wen Jing. Yu Shi glanced at Jiang Shi and deliberately said, "Your Highness is in love with the young lady, and you cannot make your Highness wait for a long time." Jiang's face turned black for a moment, and Wen Qiong coughed lightly behind her. Jiang realized that it was at the door. With so many people watching, she immediately put on a smiling face, just a little stiff. Wen Jing blushed with cooperation and took a few quick steps. Jiang Xufeng did not come down, but what was waiting for was the eunuch Zhu Zhan beside him. "Madam, aunties, come back. There's no need to send it off." Wen Jing finally smiled at Wen Xian and turned to walk towards the carriage. "Farewell to the Crown Princess and Empress Dowager." The eunuch Zhu Zhan quickly instructed the young eunuch to be a horse stool and personally cast a curtain for Wen Jing. Prince Jiang Xufeng sat in the carriage, holding a package of something in his hand, still steaming hot. Seeing Wen Jing come up, hold her hand and help her sit firmly. "Look at me, if I don't come to pick up the Crown Princess, she will be too happy to miss Shu," Jiang Xufeng said, teasing me without any other meaning. Wen Jing naturally heard it and casually replied, "I am also walking outside, and your Highness happened to be here. This does not mean that I have a close relationship with your Highness." Jiang Xufeng was dumbfounded, shook his head and laughed. He put the package in his hand into Wen Jing's arms and said, "Try it. The sugar cakes over at Tianshuifang taste good." Wen Jing looked at him in surprise, wiped his hands with a handkerchief, and pinched a piece of candy cake. It was small, with a soft and sticky outer skin and peanuts and nuts inside. It was indeed delicious. The two of them chatted and shared the sugar cake. When they arrived at the Crown Prince's mansion, a bag of sugar cake had already been eaten. Jiang Xufeng didn't realize what was going on. He loved sweets, and few people around him were unaware. Entering the mansion, he stopped at the Guanlan garden and said to Wen Jing, "I'll go change my clothes and have dinner with the Crown Princess later." This is the meaning of going to Wen Jing's place. Wen Jing naturally agreed and asked the dining room to prepare something he loved. Nowadays, the Crown Prince's mansion of the Daong dynasty occupied a large area, and the previous Crown Prince lived in the palace, commonly known as the East Palace. This mansion was built by Emperor Gaozu, the first emperor of Emperor Daong, for the Crown Prince at that time. Gaozu greatly favored this legitimate son and believed that the Eastern Palace was too small. He also built a Crown Prince's mansion in the capital, where the subsequent Crown Prince resided. Wen Jing lived in Changchun Garden, second only in size to the Crown Prince's Guanlan Garden, which served as the residence of Crown Princesses throughout history. Zhu Yun and Zhu Yue have already returned from outside, ready hot water, and waiting for Wen Jing to change clothes and wash up. Zhu Yun was ordered by Wen Jing to go to the manor to see Wen Jing's wet nurse and carefully explain the situation on the manor to Wen Jing. Wen Jing knew that the wet nurse was doing well and felt relieved. She got married, so naturally she couldn't leave the nanny family in Wenfu, and Jiang wouldn't let the nanny go. Wen Jing decided to bring out the nanny family, who were loyal servants of the Su family and were given the surname Su by the main family. Su is not an ordinary servant, otherwise he would not be able to protect Wen Jing in the Wen mansion. She knew she was getting old, and if she followed her to the Crown Prince's mansion, she might cause trouble for Wen Jing, so she invited herself to the manor where Wen Jing was accompanying her. Wen Jing changed into a regular uniform and removed several large pieces of jewelry, finally able to relax and unwind. Zhu Yue served tea and said, "Madam, during the day, Grandma Fong has brought all the account books." Wen Jing looked up and said, "What about the key to the card?" Zhu Yue pursed her lips and gently shook her head. "Ha!" Wen Jing sneered. Just as he was about to say something, Lan Tiao came to spread the news, and the Crown Prince arrived. "Well, just put away the ledger first and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Requesting recommended tickets. Thank you for your support, babies." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. There are several dishes that Jiang Xufeng likes to eat for dinner, and some are new styles specially ordered by Wen Jing to be made by the dining room. After dinner, Wen Jing personally brewed tea, and the aroma of the tea was lingering. The couple leaned on the low bed to digest their food, creating a peaceful and comfortable atmosphere. Jiang Xufeng thought that the Crown Princess was good. She came from a noble background, and the Empress Song was also a daughter from a noble family. Jiang Xufeng learned about the complicated formalities of those big families, which he was accustomed to enjoying. There are few places that can make him comfortable, and Song Liangdi, who also comes from the Song family, is also not suitable. As soon as he was happy with the result, it was not yet dark enough, so he turned Wen Jing into bed. Wen Jingyi was captivated by the man's dazzling white skin color, and for a moment, she became somewhat jealous. Jiang Xufeng had just turned 20 years old and was a normal man with twice the strength of his body. He was a bit reckless about bed curtains. When he saw Wen Jing's gaze, he chuckled low and his movements became even more excessive. The Crown Prince went to the Crown Princess's place for dinner, and the concubines in the backyard knew that the Crown Prince was going to stay in Changchun Garden tonight. They all turned off the lights early and did what they needed to do. As if waiting in the painting garden, Ruixin walked in from outside and carefully glanced at the woman sitting at the table. "Liangdi, the lights in Changchun Garden have been turned off," she said. Song Liangdi's eyes were gloomy. For the past 3 days, she went to Guanlan Garden every day to invite her cousin. She didn't dare to ask for more, and Jiang Xufeng wouldn't agree either. "I just want my cousin to have a second meal, or come and see her, which is also good, so that I can give the Crown Princess a bad face." Ko Ruixin didn't even see His Highness the Crown Prince in person, and the only ones who answered were Zhu Zhan. He only said that His Highness was busy with political affairs and would visit her whenever he had time. Busy, 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 they all went to Changchun Garden. "Master, the Crown Princess has just entered the door, and Your Highness doesn't want to show her face." Another maid, Ruisi, advised, "After waiting for a long time, Your Highness naturally knows that only the master treats Your Highness sincerely." Song Liangdi and Song Wenshu snorted coldly and didn't do anything else. They just said, "Say hello tomorrow, just say I'm caught in a cold and can't go." Tomorrow is the first time that the concubine in the backyard pays her respects to the Crown Princess. Song Wenshu wished she could always turn her head to Wen Jing. How could she miss tomorrow's opportunity? Ruixi still wanted to persuade, but Rui Xian quickly shook his head at her, and if he tried to persuade the master again, he might get angry. Song Wenshu was served by a maid and lay on the bed, muttering, "What is your background?" "A family of reckless men." The next morning, Wen Jing was unable to wake up to see off Jiang Xufeng. By the time he woke up, it was already a bit late, and everyone was coming to greet him soon. Wen Jing was sitting lazily in front of the mirror, drawing her eyebrows when a little girl came in and spread the message that all the masters had arrived. "No rules or regulations, didn't you see that Empress is still dressing up?" Lan Qian scolded while combing Wen Jing's hair. Wen Jing didn't stop her. This girl really has no rules, and she shouldn't have come to pass on the message. The message is not directly reported to her. It can be given to Zhu Yun, Zhu Yue, or a second-class maid. "All right," Lan Tiao comforted Lan Qian and walked over to the little girl in a faint tone. "This time, I'll fine you half a month's worth of silver." You can go down first. The little girl's eyes flashed with anger, and Lan Tiao saw it. She frowned and thought she would say something to the Empress later. Lan Tiao, lead them to the front hall to wait and serve some tea and pastries. Wen Jing took off the gold and laid jade ear bell on his left ear and replaced it with a pair wrapped with gold threads and rubies. After a short moment, Zhu Yue inserted the last hairpin into Wen Jing's bun. Wen Jing curved her red lips and smiled, then stood up. In the front hall, a group of concubines in the Crown Prince's mansion were seated in order of rank. The first person on the right side is Du Liangdi, and the Du family is also one of the most famous families in Dayong. Before marrying, Du Liangdi also had a great reputation as a talented woman. However, Du Liangdi also has an identity, which is the Crown Prince's grand tutor and the granddaughter of Professor Jiang Xufeng, Du's grand tutor. This is also the reason why she can share the same fate with Song Liangdi. Du Liangdi's next name is Chu Chenghui and Luo Zhaoxuan. The first one on the left is Song Liangdi's position, which was vacant before she arrived today. Next are Wan Zhaoxuan and Tian Fengyi. These people are all draft picks, and their backgrounds are not obvious. Apart from these prestigious concubines, there are also 4 concubines living in the backyard, who have lower status and are generally not summoned by the Crown Prince or Crown Princess consort, and cannot be found in their own courtyard. Du Liangdi looked at the empty space across from her, her slender fingers constantly tapping, unsure of what she was thinking. Luo Zhaoxuan, Tian Fengyi, and others were somewhat impatient and frequently looked indoors. Chu Chenghui was originally a quiet person, usually speaking very little, and at this time, she was even more observant of the eyes, nose, and heart. As for Wan Zhaoxuan, her face was a bit unpleasant, she twisted her handkerchief and didn't even take a sip of the tea. I was late and kept all the sisters waiting for a long time. As everyone looked up, they saw a woman dressed in a golden silk and butterfly flower dress walking out of the screen, her fair neck adorned with gemstone inlaid ribbons, rosy lips, willow leaf-like eyebrows, and a pair of sparkling eyes. With just one glance, it was indescribable and stunning. The appearance of the Crown Princess is really good, which is the first thought in everyone's hearts. Du Liangdi was the first to react and stood up, taking the lead in bowing, saying, "I have seen the Crown Princess and would like to extend my greetings to her. The Crown Princess is blessed with peace and prosperity." The remaining few people also regained their senses and bowed one after another. "Let's all get up. Today is the first time we've met, and we all know each other. Let's talk." Wen Jing sat still, raised his hand, and spoke softly. "I should have come to pay my respects a long time ago, but it just happened that His Highness and the Crown Princess were getting married. Considering the complexity of the matter, I dare not easily disturb you." Du Liangdi's voice was slow, neither too low nor too high, with a perfectly fitting smile. Wen Jing could tell that this was a smart person, not to mention anything else, he must be smarter than Song Shi. "It's good to come now. I'm a lively person, so come and sit down whenever you have time." Others naturally followed suit, and every word you said was warm on their faces. No one untimely mentioned the vacant position on the left. As Wen Jing continued drinking tea, he surveyed the concubines in the room. Du Liangdi is a cold and beautiful woman, with elegant clothes and jewelry. Chu Chenghui is a jade from a small family, with a semi-new and unchanged upper garment. It seems that she is not very favored, and Tian Fengyi is similar to her. Luo Zhaoxuan is more plump and has a good appearance. When seeing Wan Zhaoxuan, Wen Jing paused slightly. Wan Zhaoxuan is closely related to her appearance and is a gorgeous beauty, but Wan Zhaoxuan's eyes are more pointed, showing a slight harshness. Wan Zhaoxuan also realized that she was the only one in the Crown Prince's mansion like this, and she was also favored, which made her quite proud. Unexpectedly, the newly entered Crown Princess not only shares the same type of appearance as her, but is even more beautiful than her. Wan Zhaoxuan was both nervous and angry, and his face couldn't help but show some signs. Wen Jing doesn't mind. There are countless beauties in this world, each with their own strengths, so there's really no need to compare them. After about another cup of tea, it's almost past breakfast time, and everyone should go back. Wen Jing smiled and gestured to Lan Qian, look at me. I got along well with everyone, but I forgot the time. Let's take these back and enjoy them. Lan Qian led a person to hold a box and came forward, giving Du Liangdi a pair of extremely beautiful white jade bracelets with warm and tender tentacles. It can also be considered pleasing to her, and Du Liangdi immediately liked this pair of bracelets. What gave Chu Chenghui was a pair of hollowed-out gold wire cat's eye step shakes, although not as elegant and valuable as Du Liangdi, it was still full of weight. The things of Zhaoxuan and Fengyi are the same. The twisted silver bracelet inlaid with coral is not valuable, but it is rare. After getting something good, a few people thanked Wen Jing again and decided to go back. Madam, the heart of Song Liangdi's heart has arrived. The second-class maid, Biluo, walked in with an unpleasant expression. Du Liangdi stopped, and Wan Zhaoxuan, who was walking behind her, also stopped. The remaining three of them glanced at each other and stayed behind. Unable to conceal his thoughts while watching the excitement, Wen Jing chuckled lightly and said, please come in. Thank you for your support. I am looking for recommended tickets. Ranking of Crown Prince's Mansion ranking. Crown Princess, Liang Di, and Liang Yuan, above are officially conferred by the royal family and presented with the Imperial Jade Edict, bearing the coat of arms, training, and ceremony. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. I have seen the Empress Dowager, and I would like to offer my greetings to her. As soon as Ruixin entered, she made a big kneeling salute, looking both anxious and fearful. But if I were really scared, how could I not come to greet my wife for the first time, and how could I delay coming to take leave at this time? Wen Jing was not angry, but instead spoke in an ordinary tone and asked with a gentle attitude, what's wrong with Song Liangdi? The Empress Dowager, please forgive us. Our lord caught a cold a few days ago and we haven't seen each other well. We slept late last night, but this morning it was even worse. We couldn't get up and delayed paying respects to the Empress Dowager. The lord was frightened and asked the servant to come and apologize. Ruixin said and knelt down again. Lan Tiao, standing behind Wen Jing, frowned. She didn't know what it meant to have been cured, and she didn't know if it was a real or fake illness. She spoke as if the Empress had stopped them from seeking the imperial physician. The Empress didn't say anything yet, but this Ruixin looked like she was being bullied and had no worries. That's an interesting statement. Wen Jing's face turned cold. So, Zhuyue, take my brand to the Tai Hospital and ask Shen Hospital to diagnose Song Liangdi. Although wind cold is a minor illness, it's not good to keep dragging on, is it? Zhuyue was a clever person and immediately took a sign and hurried out. Ruixin was taken aback by this divine stroke, thinking to herself that she was not doing well. She quickly spoke out, the Crown Princess. Shen Yuan's judgment is highly skilled in medicine. She had previously cured the head disease of the palace lady, and she heard that she would see her mother the day before yesterday. Wen Jing did not let Ruixin speak, but rather smiled. I hope everyone is healthy and harmonious. Song Liangdi is cautious. As the Crown Princess, I naturally have a face to show for her. Don't worry, just ask Yu Liangdi to wait. Oh, by the way, Lan Tiao. When I got married to your highness, the palace rewarded me with a ginseng root. Let's also give it to Song Liangdi. After Wen Jing finished speaking, he got up and entered the inner room. Her words were so repetitive that Du Liangdi almost didn't laugh. She hooked her lips and walked away with her maid. Du Liangdi has left, and the rest of the people dare not stay to see Song Liangdi's joke, so they also took their maidservants with them. Ruixin bit her lips, feeling both anxious and helpless. She quickly stood up and patted her knees, returning to the picturesque garden to think of a solution. She and Ruisi both want to persuade the master. The crown princess has just entered the door, and she doesn't know her temperament yet. Why rush at this moment? The days are still long, and the master has such an identity. Why worry about the future? Madam, this Song Liangdi is really arrogant. She dares not come after her first greeting. Lan Qian stomped her feet. She had been holding it back just now, and now there is no one left, so she couldn't help it anymore. Wen Jing looked at her with a smile. If Song could be honest, she would feel strange. That's His Highness's cousin, the niece of the Empress, the legitimate daughter of the Song family. What's there to be afraid of? Empress, Song Liangdi. She won't come to greet her in the future, will she? Another thing that Lan Tiao was worried about was that Jiang Xufeng was looking towards Song Liangdi. No, Wen Jing shook her head. Her father was the Grand General of Zhenbei, and in Jiang Xufeng's current situation, the purpose of marrying her was almost obvious. So before Jiang Xufeng ascended the throne, her days were good, and as for the future, let's talk about it later. Song Liangdi behaved like this, and Wen Jing couldn't bear her. When he thought of something, he ordered, Lan Tiao, please ask Zhu Yun to talk to the steward of Guanlan Garden and say that since Song Liangdi is sick, he may not be able to sleep until he recovers. There are a total of 3 stewards in Guanlan Garden, including eunuch Zhu Zhan, second in command Zhao Ruibao, and Jiang Xufeng's nanny Fan. Although the crown prince's backyard is not yet a sign of flipping over, if any of the masters have a month or fall ill, they must be notified. Zhu Zhan was closely following the crown prince, with a relatively high status and little attention paid to trivial matters. Usually, Zhao Ruibao and Fan Mama managed together more often, so when Zhu Yun next to Wen Jing came to inform Song Liangdi to take good care of her illness, Zhao Ruibao was momentarily stunned. It was only after Fan Mama slapped him that he regained consciousness. The Crown Princess and Empress Dowager. However, Grandma Fan smiled and a gleam flashed in her eyes. Zhao Gonggang, you work in Guanlan Garden. There used to be only one legitimate lord in the Crown Prince's mansion, and that was His Highness. The Crown Princess is His Highness's legitimate wife, naturally our female lord. Who should we listen to? I think Zhao Gonggang has a clear idea in his mind. Zhao Ruibao hesitated a moment ago, but upon hearing what Grandma Fan said, his mind immediately became clear and he said, "Thank you very much for your advice, Grandma." Grandma Fan only has one daughter. She had a difficult childbirth a few years ago and the child did not stay. His Highness kindly allowed her to retire in the palace. She is an understanding person who would never use her status as a crown prince's nanny to oppress others. She only manages some miscellaneous matters in the front yard and lives a comfortable life. In the backyard, everyone who saw her respectfully called out, "Mama," and even the newly entered crown princess was polite to her. Only Song Liangdi, relying on her status, has been shouting at her for so many years, even suggesting to His Highness to send her out of the palace. Now, finally kicking the iron plate, the crown princess simply blocked Song Liangdi's way. This reason was handed over by Song Liangdi herself, and Fan Mama hummed a tune and went to the kitchen in a great mood. Jiang Xufeng spends most of his time in the study in the front yard, and he takes wedding leave these days without going to morning court. After dealing with some unimportant matters, I kept leaning on the couch to read, and became a bit lazy. In the evening, Zhao Ruibao walked in lightly and looked up at the eunuch Zhu Zhan standing beside him. When he saw Zhu Zhan nodding, he asked, "Your Highness, it's time to pass the meal." Jiang Xufeng's thoughts were interrupted and he didn't see any anger. He only put down the book in his hand and gestured for Zhu Zhan to tie his hair again. "Go to the crown princess's place to use it," he said. The eunuch at the door obeyed and headed towards Changchun Garden. Zhu Zhan recounted the important events that happened in the backyard today, and also said that Song Liangdi came to invite him twice in the afternoon. But Jiang Xufeng ordered no one to disturb, so Song Liangdi's people went back. Jiang Xufeng chuckled lightly, and the crown princess was also a wonderful person. This was to test him. Behind the empress lies the entire Song family, so Jiang Xufeng has been the crown prince since birth. With such a background and status, he naturally won't make decisions about his marriage, and he doesn't care which family he marries. With the attitude of the Empress Dowager and the Song family, it is nothing more than those young ladies from noble families, such as Song Liangdi and Du Liangdi. After only so many years, the father's fear of the Song family and himself, as well as his favoritism towards Prince Ning, have become increasingly apparent. Now it has reached the point where when he speaks in court, the father's emperor will depend on his level for a while. In the court, Prince Ning had a noble family, the Yu family, Zhao family, who was equivalent to the Song family, and had 9 military commanders. Although the 9th gate commander is of the 5th rank, he is a position that officials have squeezed their heads out. Without him, the 9th gate commander is in charge of guarding the capital and can be considered as one of the gates in the protection of the capital. The Song family also had their own people in the military, but they were not enough to suppress the Zhao family. In this way, Jiang Xufeng's situation was not really good, so the empress took the initiative to choose the eldest daughter of the Zhenbei general's family. The empress hesitated a bit, as the eldest daughter of the Wen family's reputation in the capital was not good enough to hold up the position of crown princess. But as everyone knows, General Wen's favorite is his eldest daughter. If he wants to take advantage of the situation, he can only marry Miss Wen. Jiang Xufeng doesn't care, that's not what to worry about now. If Miss Wen really can't hold up the face of the crown princess, just put her in the position of the legitimate wife. Everything in this world is like this. If you don't have hope for it, it often surprises you. On the day of her wedding, Jiang Xufeng lifted her veil and was first stunned by the appearance of the crown princess. After spending the past few days together, I have become gentle and obedient, speaking and doing things with ease, which is quite different from what is rumored in Beijing. So what exactly Wen Jing is like, Jiang Xufeng still needs to look at it from various aspects. Similarly, what kind of person Jiang Xufeng is, Wen Jing also needs to get along with him. Thank you all for your support. Requesting recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. When Jiang Xufeng arrived, Wen Jing was looking at the account book brought by Grandma Fong yesterday. Fong Mama was not assigned by the Ministry of Internal Attendance. She used to be a first-class steward next to the Empress. When Jiang Xufeng built the mansion, the Empress was not at ease and sent Fong Mama over. She has been in charge of the backyard for 5 or 6 years. Wen Jing wants to grasp the internal affairs in his hands, and the first hurdle is this Grandma Fong. In fact, if Grandma Fong really has the ability, it doesn't matter if Wen Jing continues to use her in the future. However, there are significant issues with the 3 accounts that Wen Jing read this afternoon. Your Highness, be safe. Before Wen Jing could recover, Jiang Xufeng grabbed her. It is an unwritten rule for the crown prince to stay with the crown princess for the first 3 days and the 1st and 15th days of the Lunar New Year after the crown prince's wedding, with a 15-day leave. On the 4th day today, it doesn't matter if Jiang Xufeng doesn't come, but if he can come, Wen Jing will naturally welcome him. Jiang Xufeng glanced back at the ledger that Lan Qian was about to take down and said, "The crown princess has been busy all day, it's been hard." Wen Jing smiled softly, as if she didn't recognize the meaning behind his words. She personally served him tea and said, "Your Highness, it's up to me. I'm new here, so I just hope I don't make any mistakes." The crown princess is out of sight, and the crown prince's mansion will also be the crown princess's home in the future. This is just a joke, Jiang Xufeng. Yes, I remember. Wen Jing cooperated and made a blessing. Jiang Xufeng didn't say any more of these things, he was elegant and would enjoy it. Intentionally talking about romance, but it made Wen Jing laugh straight. The couple were chatting happily and waiting for dinner. Zhu Yun furrowed his brows and walked in from outside, saying, "Your Highness, the crown princess, the heart of Song Liangdi has come again. Wen Jing almost couldn't control her expression when she heard these words. The word "you" used by Zhu Yun was very clever, and she took a sip of tea to conceal her feelings. What did you say? She only said she wanted to see His Highness. Then let her come in. Wen Jing looked very easy to talk to, and Jiang Xufeng looked at her, allowing her to be scrutinized by Jiang Xufeng. Ruixin walked in with small steps, carefully looking up at the Crown Prince before bowing and saying, "Your Highness, Crown Princess, our Lady Liang is really uncomfortable. We would like to invite the Crown Prince to come down and take a look." When she said these words, the first person to change her face was not the people in Changchun Garden, but the eunuch Zhu Zhan who served Jiang Xufeng. Zhu Gonggang broke out in a cold sweat, and His Highness is afraid he will get angry. I used to look at Song Liangdi as just a little arrogant, but I didn't know how to behave properly. The Crown Princess is a marriage bestowed by the Emperor's decree, and she will marry the legitimate wife who enters the house with 3 matchmakers, 6 ceremonies, and 8 sedan chairs. Without any accidents, she will also become the future mother of the country. If I were to be dragged away by Song Liangdi to the Ruhua Garden today, it would not only be a joke about the Crown Princess, but also affect His Highness's reputation. Strictly speaking, with the Emperor's current attitude towards His Highness, reprimands are possible. Sure enough, Jiang Xufeng's face turned a bit cold, and his tone was light with only one sentence. "Since you're sick, then take good care of yourself." Ruixin was also a bit scared and didn't dare to say more. She hesitated and walked out. In the picturesque garden, Song Liangdi was still eagerly waiting when she saw Ruixin returning alone, and there was no sound outside. Her face immediately turned pale and she sternly asked, "Where's my cousin?" Ruixin dared not hide anything, so she quickly recounted what had happened in Changchun Garden. Song Liangdi immediately got off the bed and stood up. Song Liangdi first felt aggrieved and angry, and then her face suddenly turned white. Ruixi quickly stepped forward and helped her. "Master, what's wrong with you, master?" Song Liangdi was a bit dazed and grabbed Ruixi's hand, saying, "Ruixi, is my cousin angry with me? I just want him to come and see me, can't I?" Song Liangdi was favored by her parents and grew up with a noble background. She only knew how to dress in luxurious clothing, play music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Little is known about the twists and turns in the inner house, let alone the affairs of the court. So even without Wen Jing, she is not the best choice for the queen's daughter. Law in her heart. In Song Liangdi's eyes, Wen Jing came from a humble background, but only relied on his father's military achievements to sit on the position of crown princess. Song Liangdi was not convinced and did not think there was anything wrong with not going to pay her respects. She is currently nervous, just thinking that Jiang Xufeng is angry with her for going to Changchun Garden to cut off her beard. Ruixin was carefully selected by Lady Song to bring with her Song Liangdi, in order to persuade and comfort her at critical moments. Ruixi understands why the Crown Prince is angry, pretending to be sick, not paying respects, and cutting off his beard all have to be counted together. She also understood that if she spoke directly, Song Liangdi would not listen and would be even more angry. She pondered for a moment and said, "Master, you know your highness's temperament. Even if you're angry, it's only for a moment. Tomorrow, if you go soften up and admit your mistake, your highness will definitely forgive you." Song Liangdi obviously listened to this and nodded repeatedly, yes, my cousin treated me very well. This time, I was also impulsive and should have admitted my mistake." Ruixi and Ruixin looked at each other, both breathed a sigh of relief, and then cooperated to comfort Song Liangdi, finally coaxing her into bed and going to bed. Song Liangdi doesn't even have to wait until morning to cut off her beard in Changchun Garden. If Ruixin leaves Ruhua Garden, the backyard will know. Du Liangdi just finished a purse, threw the scissors back into the basket, and chatted with her maid, Su Wan. Why did the Song family teach their daughter to be like this? The Song family has only been passed down for 100 years, and their heritage is still a bit lacking. Su asked while sorting and laughing, and she gained Du Liangdi's trust the most, and her words relaxed. She's just like that, she won't make any progress. Master, can't I understand the Crown Princess? It's only been a few days now, how can you understand? Du Liangdi chuckled, now I look at it with kindness and magnanimity. How can I know inside? Yes, my servant is also cunning. Su asked, Your Highness didn't have a legitimate wife before. The biggest ones in the backyard were you and Song Liangdi. Your Highness spent half a month in our Xianing garden. Without speaking, she was interrupted by Du Liangdi waving her hand and saying, Your Highness is definitely going to marry a legitimate wife. It would be someone else, not one. It's impossible for me. Your Highness agrees, and Empress Dowager and the Song family will not agree. At least the Crown Princess looks good on the surface now, she's already very good. Du Liangdi has been studying with her grandfather since childhood, and she is much more knowledgeable than ordinary women. The Du family has few heirs, and in her generation, she only has an older brother and her 2 children. My grandfather worked tirelessly for the family, and as the daughter of the Du family, she always had to make some sacrifices. Although entering the Crown Prince's mansion was not her wish, life always had to pass, and she refused to let go of what belonged to her. Thank you for your support. I would like to request a recommended ticket babies, help me correct the wrong word QAQ, end of this chapter. Chapter 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Jiang Xufeng and Wen Jing had breakfast together before leaving. The concubines came to pay their respects, but Song Liangdi still couldn't be seen. Wen Zhaoxuan couldn't help but look towards the direction of the inner room, and coincidentally met Wen Jing's gaze. She was embarrassed for a moment, then straightened her neck and looked back. Wen Jing was too lazy to argue with a Zhao Sun, but Luo Zhao Sun looked around and said, Song Liangdi is really sick at a bad time. No one answered her words, and Wen Jing didn't speak either. Wen Zhaoxuan, who was sitting on her left, glanced at Luo Zhaoxuan and sneered. Luo Zhaoxuan looked at Chu Chenghui, Tian Fengyi, and the leisurely Du Liangdi with a casual expression, and suddenly tightened his handkerchief. Wen Jing had a lot of things to deal with today. After sitting for a while, she found an excuse to leave. The Crown Prince's wedding was celebrated with gifts from families in the capital that could be named after him. Some are reciprocity, while others want to seize this opportunity to establish a relationship with the Crown Prince's mansion. Jiang Xufeng mentioned this matter last night, saying that it's nothing special, which means that he can return to Wen Jing and handle it. Wen Jing smiled and agreed that she would have to do such things sooner or later. Returning the gift was about to open the warehouse, and Jiang Xufeng coincidentally handed her an opportunity to hold the key. Previously, it should have been Zhao Gonggang and Fan Mama in Guanlan Garden who were in charge of these things, right? Wen Jing flipped through the gift list and placed it on his lap. Lan Tiao, you go to Guanlan Garden to invite Fan Mama, saying that I have time today to invite her to tea. Lan Tiao was able to speak and had a good attitude, which made Grandma Fan smile and smile. Without Lan Tiao having to say much, she followed her to Changchun Garden. I pay my respects to the Crown Princess. Please sit down, Grandma. Wen Jing raised her hand slightly, and Zhu Yun had already prepared a low squat for Fan Mama to sit on. It's not my business to come, Madam Lao. Your Highness has entrusted the matter to me, and I am also a bride. The Crown Prince's mansion and various people's affairs also need to consult with Mama. Wen Jing's words were extremely polite, and even Grandma Fan was somewhat flattered. The Crown Princess has killed the servant. If the Empress has anything to do, just give her orders. I will definitely do my best. One morning, Wen Jing and Fan Mama finally finalized the list of gifts. Fan Mama was meticulous in everything, and Wen Jing humbly sought advice, but learned a lot. Which family the Crown Prince's mansion has good relations with, which family has average relationships, and which family cannot even touch the threshold of the Crown Prince's mansion. This time, Wen Jing has already understood. "Mammy, you've worked hard. We've prepared meals in the side room. Mammy can eat before leaving." Wen Jing folded up the gift list and smiled happily. "Oh, thank you, Empress Dowager." Grandma Fan was also happy. Empress Dowager was intelligent, humble, and wouldn't pretend to understand. She felt a great sense of comfort, no matter what, her temperament alone was incomparable in the backyard. Mammy Fan ate, got a reward and brought back a box of dim sum. After having lunch, Lan Xian was eager to give it a try and said with a hint of excitement, "I'll go take care of Grandma Fong and get the key." "Don't worry," Wen Jing elegantly wiped the corner of her mouth with a handkerchief and picked up a cup of snack tea. "There are still a few books of accounts that haven't been read yet. Let's finish reading them all." After reading the ledger for more than an hour, Wen Jing rubbed her brows a bit tired. Just looking at the accounts, this grandma can also be called a good bookkeeper, remembering exactly where every money is spent. If it weren't for Wen Jing's careful inspection, he might have been fooled. The previous 3 accounts were mostly for kitchen purchases or miscellaneous expenses, and each account had the suspicion of a premium. For example, the current price of 1 kilogram of white rice is around 5 to 6 yuan, and the money here naturally refers to copper coins. The Crown Prince's mansion provides tribute rice from Jiangnan to the lords, which is not only supplied by the Ministry of Internal Attendance, but also purchased by the mansion. The price of tribute rice is much higher than that of ordinary white rice, but around 50 yuan is already the most expensive tribute rice on the market. And the price of tribute rice per kilogram recorded in Grandma Fong's accounts is as high as 100 yuan, which is twice as high. The remaining accounts include expenses for concubines in the backyard and personnel warehouses. Surprisingly, it is even more outrageous than the previous 3 books. The Ministry of Internal Attendance only assigns the positions of Liang Yuan and above, while the rest of the concubines are assigned by the Crown Prince's mansion itself. According to the rules, Liangdi offers 30 taels of silver, 5 pieces of cloth, a set of jewelry, tea, fruits, supplements, and more. Liang Yuan is an example of a silver of 25 taels, and she also has a little less. According to these rules, the mansion pushed down one by one. To Tian Fengyi, there were only 10 taels of silver, 2 hairpins, and 3 taels of tea. On Grandma Fong's account, I remember that Tian Fengyi had 20 taels of silver and quite a lot of things. Wen Jing has been watching these days, and Tian Fengyi doesn't seem to have enough money. The fur edges on that jacket and skirt are all worn out. "Madam, is this Granny Fong extending her hands too much?" I have inquired and found out that there are actually 2 first-class stewards in the backyard. Granny Lu was assigned by the Ministry of Internal Attendance and entered the mansion earlier than Granny Fong. After Granny Fong took over the affairs of the backyard, Granny Lu was excluded and now she only cares about some miscellaneous things. Lan Tiao frowned, and Granny Fong felt like walking horizontally in this mansion, relying on being around the Empress. So, now everything in the backyard is in the hands of Grandma Fong. Isn't the extra money going into her own pocket? Wen Jing squinted her eyes. In the morning, she chatted with Grandma Fan. The Guanlan garden was well organized, and compared to the backyard, it was just 2 different worlds. Is it Jiang Xufeng intentionally indulging? I don't want to confront the Empress directly, and then wait for her, the Crown Princess, to come in and handle it. TSK, whether or not she thinks too much, Grandma Fong will definitely handle it. Anyway, she'll just make a knife once. Lan Tiao, go and get the key to the warehouse from Grandma Fong, just say I want a gift. If she blocks, give her the order and ask her to prepare according to it. It's going to be sent out tomorrow, and if it's delayed, I'll just ask her. Wen Jing doesn't have much patience to deal with Grandma Fong, as she has too few people to use and there must be someone capable to take Fong down. The instructions placed by Wen Jing on the surface are not afraid of Fong Mama's yin and yang disobedience. If they are not done well, they are simply handed over to Wen Jing. Zhu Yun, try to get in touch with Lu Mama recently and see if she can use it. Wen Jing took the personnel brochure and handed it to Zhu Yue, asking her to look at some second and third class managers and select some that can be used. After finishing these, it was already dusk outside, and someone came to the dining room waiting for Wen Jing to order. There hasn't been much movement on the other side of Guanlong Garden all day, and no one has come to report it. I think Jiang Xufeng won't come tonight. Wen Jing ordered one or two of his favorite dishes, added stir-fried bamboo shoots and fresh bamboo pigeon soup. This is the season for eating bamboo shoots, and Wen Jing prefers this bite. Just as I put down the menu, Grandpa Dongqing from the Guanlong Garden arrived. Dongqing is Zhu Zhan's disciple and has nothing important to do. He is the one who usually communicates. Greetings to the Crown Princess and Empress Dowager. Dongqing made a sound. Get up, Wen Jing smiled. Your Highness wants the servant to pass on a message to the Empress, saying that she is going to a banquet tonight and cannot accompany her for dinner. Let the Empress use some good food, and if there is anything you want to eat, your Highness will bring it back to you. Dongqing spoke sharply, with two small dimples on her face, looking happy. Wen Jing's eyebrows and eyes curved, and Jiang Xufeng, the man, did have a comforting ability. Your Highness, going to the banquet is a happy thing. Just take care of it and don't let your Highness drink too much and hurt his body. I'll have someone prepare a wake-up soup, and it will be more useful when your Highness comes back. Yes, I will definitely bring my words here. Madam, rest assured. Dongqing responded and returned to Guanlong Garden. Thank you for your support. I would like to request a recommended ticket where have all my little cuties gone, QAQ, end of this chapter. Chapter 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. In Guanlong Garden, Jiang Xufeng is changing clothes. It's not a formal banquet, he's dressed simply and doesn't have a crown on, he looks like a charming young man from some family. Dongqing spoke in a few words, but Jiang Xufeng curled his lips slightly and didn't say anything more. Zhu Zhan picked a Pisces pendant for him to wear, and he was about to set off. Zhu Gonggang, Miss Ruisi from Song Liangdi's side has arrived. It is the Liangdi master who wants to invite His Highness to dinner. The voice of a eunuch came from outside the door. Jiang Xufeng looked up at Zhu Zhan, who immediately gave a glance to Dongqing. Dongqing went to the door and pulled the little eunuch away, lowering her voice. Your Highness is going out, don't you know? Your Highness hasn't seen anyone from Song Liangdi's side these past few days, so why don't you be more clever? The eunuch only dared to pounce in secret, and those who followed His Highness, such as Dongqing, were naturally not afraid to offend Song Liangdi. Where did they dare to provoke anyone below them? Your Highness, in the morning, Song Liangdi personally came once and said she was apologizing for yesterday's incident. Jiang Xufeng raised his eyebrows and said calmly, she is the daughter of the Song family. What's wrong with her? Zhu Zhan didn't understand the meaning of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, and he didn't dare to continue speaking. Fortunately, His Royal Highness didn't have any intention of insisting on returning. The banquet was just a wine-tasting banquet hosted by Han Huan, the eldest son of the Right Push family. It happened every year and the time was not fixed. At the beginning, it was a gathering of young masters from various families for fun, and it was not until the rise of Jiang Xufeng that this banquet changed its nature. Han Qing, the second son of the Han family, was the companion of Jiang Xufeng and had the same temperament as Jiang Xufeng, making him quite compatible. Han Huan stood at the entrance of the garden and saw the sedan chair of the Crown Prince's mansion from a distance. He waved his hand and instructed the servant, quickly, go find where the second prince is, and tell him that His Highness has arrived. Han Huan knew that the reason why the Crown Prince has been able to come to this banquet these past few years is simply for the sake of his younger brother's face. The rest of the people, including him, cannot welcome this great Buddha. Congratulations to your highness, the sedan chair had already stopped, and the servant looking for someone was nowhere to be seen. Han Huan quickly took a few steps forward and bowed to welcome the driver. Young master, don't be too polite. I'm bothering you again. Jiang Xufeng laughed, and young master Han had seen him more than once. How could he still look like this? Your highness, your appearance is shining brightly. Han Huan chuckled and turned around to look. Jiang Xufeng shook the fan in his hand and said, Zibei, I'll go find him alone. Young master, please stay. Han Gongzi Han Qing, with the courtesy name Zibei. He is currently hiding under the porch for a drink, in a hidden position, no wonder the servant cannot find him. You do know how to avoid leisure. Han Qing also knew who it was when he heard the voice. He lazily arched his hand and said, Your Highness. Jiang Xufeng picked up another wine glass, took a sip, and exclaimed in surprise, This wine is good, strong enough. Han Gong smiled and said, It was stolen from my old man. Your Highness, you can save some drinking. Jiang Xufeng nodded at him with his finger and shook his head, saying, I can't drink too much. I was told before going out. Tisk, Han of course, knew the reason why Jiang Xufeng married the eldest daughter of the Wen family. Jiang Xufeng's words were obviously satisfied with the crown princess. He is still a vassal, and it is not easy to inquire about the affairs of the crown princess. He remembered something and took out an envelope from his arms, handing it to Jiang Xufeng. The matter that His Highness asked me to investigate has been thoroughly investigated, he said. Jiang Xufeng opened the envelope, which contained a piece of writing paper and a complaint. Jiang Xufeng roughly looked at it at a glance, then folded it back and put it in his sleeve. As expected, it's not bad. Do you think third brother would go crazy without his money bag? Han shook his shoulders and said, I was even more frightened when His Highness called me third brother. Halfway through the banquet, Jiang Xufeng left early. The aristocratic family was brightly lit, but the common people had already fallen asleep early, leaving only the sound of a watchman outside. Jiang Xufeng supported his forehead, swaying slightly with the sedan chair, which contained only a faint glow of the night pearl. He was completely hidden in the dark, and if anyone had seen his expression at this moment, they would not have believed that he was the crown prince, who was usually as upright as jade and had a good temper. Zhu Zhan carefully waited on His Highness the Crown Prince to change clothes and wash up. Before going to bed, he tentatively asked, Your Highness, the sobering soup prepared by the Crown Princess for you is still simmering. Do you want some before you go to bed? Jiang Xufeng rolled over and his voice was a bit blurry. No need. 5 or 6 more days passed, and Jiang Xufeng came to Changchun Garden again. He went to Du Liangdi's visit and summoned Lin, the concubine, in the small garden. The rest of him lived in Guanlan Garden. Song Liangdi went to invite several times but didn't see anyone. I heard she fell a lot in the Ruhua Garden. Wen Jing got up early and asked Zhu Yun to inform everyone that there was no need to greet him today. Because this is the first day of junior high school, she is going to the palace to greet the Empress. She changed into an orange-red pleated waist skirt, paired with the same color scheme for her outerwear and shoes, and wore a pearl crown on her head, which looked shiny and beautiful. She loves to dress up, but she won't harm herself for any so-called reputation. Besides, Jiang Xufeng's long shirt is made of cloud silk brocade, and crossing the water once is already the limit. At best, she can only wear it twice. What money can Wen Jing save for him? The carriage of the Crown Prince's mansion stopped at the entrance of the palace, and the next step was for Wen Jing to take a walking carriage. When the imperial carriage arrived at the Fengyi Palace, the concubines had just paid their respects, and a few slowly walking concubines had to bow to Wen Jing. My concubine pays her respects to my mother, who is blessed with longevity and good health. Empress Song wore a phoenix crown on her head and a long skirt with a golden thread pulling the ground. She is over 40 years old and well maintained, with no noticeable fine lines around the corners of her eyes. Seeing Empress Song of Wen Jing with a smile on her face and a kind expression on her face, she waited for Wen Jing to finish this ceremony before saying, "There's no need for so much courtesy between our mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. You came early here, so I don't think you used breakfast. Coincidentally, I didn't use it well before, so you can accompany me to use some more." Wen Jing nodded with a smile and supported Empress Song's arm, saying, "I will serve my mother and have meals." Wen Jing used dim sum. Her first meeting with Empress Song was before the emperor gave her the royal decree. The queen said she wanted to see her, so Jiang had to take her into the palace. At that time, Empress Song also had an excellent attitude, pulling her to seek warmth and comfort. However, when she listened carefully, both inside and outside were Empress Song's arrogance as a woman of a noble family. Although she wanted to borrow her father's influence, she still acted like a charity. Empress Song left a deep impression on Wen Jing, making her feel that this mother-in-law was just a smiling tiger. Every time she met her, she naturally had to make all necessary preparations. After Wen Jing accidentally picked up pickled vegetables a few times, Empress Song frowned lightly and wiped the corners of her mouth with a handkerchief. "You can sit down and use some together," she said, eating without words, sleeping without words. Empress Song ate about half an hour full, put down her chopsticks, and slowly picked up the tea at hand. "Thank you all for your support. Requesting recommended tickets. Love you. Degree. Has everyone been on vacation?" End of this chapter. Chapter 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. When I first saw you in this palace, I saw that this girl looks good, but she's still a bit immature. Now that she's dressed up, she's also in charge of the family. Empress Song also looked at Wen Jing for a while. Wen Jing was dressed in both gemstones and pearls, and she felt dissatisfied as she looked at him. "My mother praised me falsely. I still have a lot to learn from her," Wen Jing said with a sincere smile and a hint of shyness, choking Empress Song. Empress Song couldn't be too serious, making her seem harsh. Pretending to do everything for his son, he earnestly said, "The Crown Prince is the Crown Prince, and I don't know how many people are watching him every day. You are a good child, so be more considerate of him. You should pay attention to every word and action, and not be careless in all aspects." Wen Jing sneered in her heart. She just brought more jewelry, and the Empress would hold on and say a few words. Jiang Xufeng didn't even care so much. She didn't say much, indicating that she was moved and obedient. Even if Empress Song extended her hand for a long time, she couldn't stare at the Crown Prince's mansion all the time. If she heard one or two words that didn't hurt or itch, she would dare to do it again next time. The Empress nodded when she saw that Wen Jing was still obedient, and then asked about the affairs in the Crown Prince's mansion. She also knew the right balance. Asking too many questions had a prying effect, even her own son couldn't do it. After a few words, she didn't mention it. It surprised Wen Jing that Empress Song didn't mention Song Liangdi at all. Alas, just now Princess Ning came to pay her respects, and there is another illegitimate son in Prince Ning's mansion. Empress Song suddenly sighed. Although she was born from a concubine below and has a lower status, she is still a descendant. The Crown Prince is now quite old, but he still has no offspring under his knee, which really worries our palace. The Song and Zhou families had been in conflict for many years, but the Empress and Empress Rong were naturally unwilling to deal with each other. Now, the Emperor dotes on Empress Rong and has a fondness for her son Prince Ning, which has a faint tendency to threaten the position of heir. Before King Ning, there was an illegitimate daughter who was raised by Queen Ning. Although he doesn't have a son, the Crown Prince doesn't even have a daughter. The fact that Jiang Xufeng had no offspring was always criticized by the Ning Wang faction. Rong Guifei also mocked the Empress. Now that Prince Ning has both sons and daughters, it's no wonder Empress Song is anxious. Wen Jing doesn't know what to say. It's not up to her to decide the fate of her children. And having children is a matter of two people. Before she married Jiang Xufeng, there was not a single pregnant woman in the backyard of the Crown Prince's mansion. Empress Song was somewhat unhappy when she didn't speak. This palace also knows that the matter of pregnancy is urgent. There is a concubine in the Crown Prince's backyard who was sent by this palace, and she was chosen from 1,000 options. Her family background is clean, and she is also gentle and amiable. If you have time, you can see her. You can trust her at the very least, and it's easy to praise her. Don't be stingy either. You are the Crown Princess, with a noble status, and your future children will also be born out of wedlock. Naturally, they are not comparable to those born from concubines. However, the Crown Prince is currently in a difficult situation, and our palace has no other choice. Regardless of gender, it is always better to have one first. When the child is born, they will also be raised with you. If there is anyone who doesn't follow the rules, this palace will make it up to you. The words of Empress Song are truly reasonable and emotional. But she really miscalculated Wen Jing. Wen Jing didn't stop the concubines in the backyard from getting pregnant, and she didn't mind if her eldest son wasn't born by herself. As the queen said, her child is legitimate, and how can a concubine's child compare? De Jong had a clear distinction between the legitimate and illegitimate families, which was also the reason why Prince Ning had a lot of support and was favored by the emperor. Jiang Xufeng was in a disadvantaged position but still remained the crown prince. Wen Jing's eyebrows didn't even move, but she smiled softly and said, "Yes, the Empress Dowager's kindness for your highness is deeply ingrained in me. How could I taste it?" The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law chatted for half a quarter of an hour, and it was mostly Empress Song singing a solo performance. Wen Jing nodded along. When the last corner of Wen Jing's clothes disappeared from Empress Song's sight, her friendly expression instantly cooled. This Wen family was originally thought to have been suppressed by the stepmother's family, but as the outside world said, "Look, is it because this palace has taken a blind eye?" Sui He, the maid in charge of the palace next to Empress Song, gently pinched her shoulder and said, "Madam, life is still long, and the crown princess is still young." "Yeah, you're still young." Wen Jing sat silently on the chariot, with the empress's words coming in and out of her left ear. She just took it for granted, thinking about something else. Lan Qian was trying to say something, but was held back by Zhu Yu. "Who is that? Is it the new empress in the palace? Why haven't you seen her?" "Princess Huaining, that's the Empress Dowager of the Crown Prince. Zhao Piling went to the palace today to pay her respects to Prince Ning's birth mother, Empress Rong." First, Empress Rong praised her illegitimate eldest son with joy, and then she sarcastically said that Prince Ning did not have a legitimate child, which made Zhao Piling feel uneasy. Before leaving the palace, it is customary to visit the empress to show respect for her. Coincidentally, I met Wen Jing. Zhao Piling had never seen Wen Jing before, and when people said that the crown princess was a beauty, she sneered. Before, the Wen family couldn't even rank high in the capital, but there was a great general to support their reputation. Even the legitimate daughter with a bad reputation could become a crown princess. The crown prince's party is really not to be chosen. This time, I saw Wen Jing's appearance clearly, and her eyebrows furrowed into a Chinese character. Her appearance was ordinary, not even considered a jade from a small family. When she frowned, she showed a hint of sarcasm and said, "Oh, what kind of background and appearance are you from? Such a lack of dignity." The second-class palace maids beside concubine Rome led her on the way. Upon hearing this, she smiled and followed suit with a few words. Wen Jing doesn't know how others are arranging her behind the scenes, and even if she knows, she won't care. Since the emperor's wedding, there have been many rumors, both pleasant and unpleasant, that she has heard. Since it means Mother Empress, let's call everyone to take a look. Wen Jing returned to Changchun Garden and changed into a simpler piece of clothing. Her original intention was not to meet these concubines, who had the ability to obtain a proper reputation through creation. Since Empress Song mentioned it today, it's okay to see everyone. Empress. Alright, I'll send someone to invite a few girls. You go get some herbal tea. The weather outside is getting hotter and hotter, and the lady is also thirsty. Lan Tiao supported Lan Qian, saving her a lot of words. Don't be angry with Lan Qian, Empress. She has such a free-spirited personality that even the servants advise her. No, Lan Qian is not like this outside. She is loyal to me, and I know it. Wen Jing smiles, and Lan Qian recently constrained herself to speak less. Let Chu Yun ask me for a bowl of shredded chicken congee. I don't need much in Funny Palace. I stayed outside for most of the morning, and I'm a little hungry. Why don't Empress have dinner first? Lan Tiao immediately asked with concern. It's okay. After seeing Inan, let's have a heart-to-heart meal. Then tell the dining room that there will be another steamed dumplings for lunch. I tasted good the day before yesterday. Thank you all for your support. Requesting recommended tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Several concubines were summoned by the Crown Princess and dared not delay. They immediately dressed up and arrived in no time. Jiang Xufeng had a total of 4 concubines, including 2 palace maids arranged by the Ministry of Internal Affairs, an Enli, the Zhou family sent by a noble consort, the remaining Lin, who had the most outstanding appearance, was sent by Empress Song. They all followed the rules and stood with their heads slightly lowered, saying, "Greetings to the Crown Princess. The Crown Princess is blessed with peace and prosperity. Let's all get up, Lan Tiao, sit down." Wen Jing raised his hand and carefully looked at the 4 of them. Li looked small and had a little baby fat on her cheeks. Jiang Xufeng probably didn't like this type of woman, so she could count the days of Li's bedtime on her fingers. Anshe carried the gentle demeanor of a woman from a water town in Jiangnan, with her eyebrows and eyes slightly lowered, a bit bitter but also beautiful. The remaining 2, with the purpose of being sent to the Crown Prince's mansion to compete for favor, naturally look good. Zhou has already figured out which one to choose from, and Lin is more brilliant than her. There is really a competition between the Empress and the Empress Rong no matter what. Empress Rong brought in a Zhou family from the front, and a better Lin family from the back. The few people sat on low stools, looking somewhat restrained. Li Shi and Shi never dared to look at Wen Jing's face, while Zhou Shi and Lin Shi looked at the female master with their spare light. You don't have to be nervous, I suddenly remembered that there was still some time before lunch when I saw you. Empress is usually busy, and it's already fortunate for me to wait for you once. Zhou's attitude was respectful, but her smile was not very pleasant. Yes, when I saw the Crown Princess, she looked like a fairy in a play. I was really ashamed of myself. Lin quickly followed suit, afraid that Zhou might steal the limelight. When she spoke, her eyebrows and eyes raised, her chin slightly raised, with a hint of pride that she had been serving the Crown Prince for a long time. Wen Jing always had a faint smile on his face, and after hearing 2 compliments, his words remained unchanged. You all have sweet mouths. Lin felt a bit embarrassed for a moment, while Zhou remained calm. Neither of them allowed each other to come and go, secretly competing. Li Shi and Shi watched quietly without saying a word. Having a backing behind it is different. Being a concubine has more confidence. It seems like the time for lunch, so I have already seen it. Wen Jing put down the teacup, which is the meaning of chasing guests. I am not a rigid and cliché person, nor do I have so many difficult rules. As long as you keep your duty and serve your highness well, I am easy to talk to. All 4 of them politely retreated, with Lin walking at the end and looking back several times. As she was about to leave Changchun Garden, Lin suddenly turned around and said, Miss Zhu Yun, I just tasted the tea from Empress Dowager. Can you stay and drink a few more? Zhu Yun narrowed his eyes and said, Miss Lin, the Empress is going to have lunch. Miss Lin's face turned black for an instant, and she remembered who she was facing and gathered her expression. But Zhu Yun still saw it, and his eyes froze for a moment. Zhou and Lin, with their backs against the mountain, wanted to step on the crown princess and climb up, but they had a lot of thoughts. After the incident, Zhu Yun still spoke to Lan Tiao. Lan Tiao nodded and took Zhu Yun's hand, saying, "Good sister, Empress is busy with affairs. Later, it will be springtime, and Empress will go to a banquet. We naturally need to help Empress see more of these things. Lan Qian and I don't know as much as sister and Zhu Yu. I hope sister will take more trouble." Lan Tiao and Lan Qian were all brought by the Empress from home, and Zhu Yun didn't take it too seriously in his heart. He smiled and said, "They all serve the Empress. You and Lan Qian know better about her close service. Zhu Yue and I will handle some trivial matters, and we can cooperate more." The two of them stood in the corridor talking. Zhu Yun looked around and asked in a low voice, "Song Liangdi hasn't come to pay her respects. What can Empress do?" "There's no need for the Empress to come up with any solutions. Song Liangdi may not be able to hold on anymore, and it's only been a few days." Lan Tiao blinked and gestured in the direction of Guanlan Garden. Zhu Yun understood instantly and laughed, but Song Liangdi also suffered it on her own. On the other side, the courtyard where Lin and his concubines lived after they returned, the four of them crowded together and could only divide into a narrow attic. Miss Lin looked unhappy and sat there without saying a word. Amber, the maid who served her, poured her tea and carefully glanced at her expression, "Mississippi." Miss Lin waved her hand, she didn't know how to say it. For a moment, I couldn't help but say, "Why doesn't the crown princess see me?" Amber didn't understand her meaning. In her eyes, the crown princess had a noble status, so why leave a concubine to speak? Miss Lin felt even angrier when she saw Amber appearing dull and ignorant. She threw the handkerchief in her hand and said, "I have the Empress to make the decision for me, and I have won the favor of His Highness. My status is naturally more prestigious than those three. But now, I have no serious reputation. Miss Lin is the most favored among the concubines, even more favored than Luo Zhaoxuan and Tian Fengyi. She just never had a proper concubine status, and she tried to mention it to His Highness, but His Highness always had no right answer. After talking too much, she hadn't seen His Highness for a month, which really scared her and she didn't dare to mention it again. Miss, the days are still long, so it's not urgent. You have a favor, and fame is something that will happen sooner or later." Amber picked up a handkerchief and came back, quickly persuading. "What do you know? I have a legitimate reputation to continue to rise, just a concubine. How can I have a rank even if I have affection? You go, look at the door, is there anyone from Guanlan Garden coming?" Miss Lin stomped her feet and urged Amber to guard at the entrance of the yard. It has been almost half a month, and she only saw His Highness once. Unfortunately, today is the first day of junior high school, and Jiang Xufeng returned from outside and went to Changchun Garden. Song Liangdi, who had been staring at the Guanlan Garden all along, didn't even touch a single person. She really wished she could rush straight into Changchun Garden. But on this day, if Liangdi really went, it would be over. Ruisi Ruixin couldn't help but stop her. "Your Highness returned early today, why don't you change your clothes and drink tea first? You can have dinner later." Wen Jing had just bathed, and her hair was black and long, like a fine satin. Jiang Xufeng touched his hand and smiled, "Is it too early for the crown princess to take a shower at this time? My concubine's hair doesn't dry easily at night, and sleeping wet is always uncomfortable." Wen Jing pretended not to see Jiang Xufeng's ambiguous smile and pushed his hand. Jiang Xufeng turned to the back of the screen to change his clothes. He had his clothes prepared in Changchun Garden, and there was no such honor elsewhere. This night, the Phoenix and Phoenix were in perfect harmony. When Jiang Xufeng left in the morning, Wen Jing was still asleep. After leaving the door, he gave an order. I remember that the fragrant dew that was offered as tribute from the western regions last year is still in the warehouse. Take it all to the Crown Princess to raise her hair. Wen Jing is also quite happy to receive Xianglu. It's good for men to have you in their hearts, but you only point your finger at men to live. So, Madam, Song Liangdi has come to pay her respects. Thank you all for your support. Requesting recommended tickets not updated tomorrow. Wishing everyone a happy spring festival. Good health. Everything goes smoothly, / greater than or equal to less than or equal to / end of this chapter. Chapter 10. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 10. Song Wenshu sat in the front hall with the other concubines, feeling embarrassed on her face and burning in her heart. She hasn't even seen her cousin for half a month. She repeatedly invited her, but her cousin said that political affairs were busy. Being able to go to Changchun Garden, Xianin Garden, and even summon concubines, but unwilling to come to her Ruhua Garden. Song Liangdi cried for a while after failing to invite people to Guanlan Garden again yesterday. But she doesn't understand. There are always people who understand. It's just that she refuses to listen to Ruisi Ruixin's advice. The last two maidservants had to invite Grandma Fong. After all, Grandma Fong was a member of the Empress and had many private interactions with her sisters, Liang Di. She could still listen to Grandma Fong's words. Grandma Fong is not foolish to be able to serve the queen by her side. If I had known what was going on with Song Liangdi, I would have cursed at the mud that couldn't support the wall, but I still had to persuade her. The reasoning was tossed and turned, and all the bad words were tactfully expressed. Finally, Song Liangdi softened. The truth is actually very simple. Whenever she comes to greet Wen Jing, Jiang Xufeng will enter her garden. Firstly, as the Crown Prince, Jiang Xufeng will not let his reputation as a favored concubine ruin his wife. At most, it is not pleasant to have a favored concubine and his wife destroyed by an official, and the most serious case is being punished by the imperial censor Tai Shen. If placed on the Crown Prince, it would be a major event that could stir up the storms of the city and even affect his position as heir apparent. Secondly, the Wen family is still useful, and he will not give face to Wen Jing. Then, it was Jiang Xufeng himself, who was not Emperor Kangde. The legitimate wife is good, and even if she looks good, she can handle things well. He still hopes for harmony between husband and wife. Du Liangdi glanced lightly at Song Wenshu. If Song Wenshu could persist to the end, Du Huiying would also give her a high regard. Now it seems that I have lost face as a young lady from a prestigious family. If this were still in the boudoir, wouldn't it make the ladies from other families laugh their teeth out? Wen Jing, as usual, waited for everyone to pay their respects, without giving Song Liangdi a single glance. I would like to extend my greetings to the Crown Princess and Empress Dowager. The Crown Princess and Empress Dowager are blessed with peace and prosperity. Song Wenshu's concubine echoed back and forth in her mouth, expressing her unwillingness and reluctance. After everyone sat down, Chu Chenghui clenched the handkerchief in his hand and hesitated for a moment before standing up and bowing. Empress Dowager, I have something to attend to. My aunt's family lives in the capital. A few days ago, my cousin delivered a letter saying that my aunt is seriously ill and I want to send something to her mansion. I hope she agrees. Wen Jing was surprised that Chu Chenghui was so serious, thinking it was something important. She was about to speak when Song Liangdi interrupted her with a cold snort. What shameless identity would you dare to ask for from the Crown Prince's mansions, Chenghui? Chu Chenghui, you are so unruly. Wen Jing leaned back on the chair, his eyebrows and eyes icy cold, and said, Song Liangdi, is this your rule? She was already exceptionally beautiful in appearance, with her eyebrows raised and a hint of sharpness, making Song Liangdi speechless for a moment. Song Shi, it's not up to you as a concubine to say what the rules of the Crown Prince's mansion are like. This palace will not argue with you since you have committed the first offense. If there is another time, we will go to the back of the mother's house to discuss and share. When Wen Jing was in the mansion, he rarely claimed to be his own palace, and now using it makes everyone present feel uneasy. Wen Jing directly and accurately inserted into Song Wenchu's chest and lung tube, and with a word from his concubine, Song Liangdi almost burst into tears in anger. But she didn't dare to really make a scene in front of the queen and angrily flicked her handkerchief. Wen Jing's sharpness seemed like a flash in the pan. When facing Chu Chenghui, his expression relaxed and his tone was gentle. Father, Emperor, and Mother are both kind-hearted people, and the Crown Prince's mansion does not have such strict rules. Since Chu Chenghui's aunt is seriously ill, let me give you a day to see her. She will come back before going out for dinner in the morning. De Yong's ancestors were from a foreign tribe in the north, so even if it continues to this day, the rules are not as strict as the previous dynasty. A concubine like Chu Chenghui, who has a high rank and status, is allowed to occasionally go out of the secondary family, as long as the mother. Law allows it. Previously, the backyard was controlled by Grandma Fang, and Song Liangdi would even intervene. They couldn't even pass messages to their families outside. Upon hearing Wen Jing's words, Chu Chenghui was about to burst into tears of joy. He officially kowtowed 3 times to Wen Jing, saying, "Thank you, Empress Dowager Dowager. Thank you, Empress Dowager Dowager Dowager." On the second day, Chu Chenghui greeted Wen Jing and left the mansion. In Guanlan Garden, Zhu Zhan even told Jiang Xufeng about this matter. Jiang Xufeng was reading a book when he heard the words and gave him a sideways glance. The affairs in the backyard are at the discretion of the Crown Princess. These trivial matters need to be told to me, he said. Zhu Zhan chuckled, thinking that it wasn't you who made the servant handle every detail. Now there's no need to know. Has the Song family gone to pay respects to the Crown Princess? Jiang Xufeng flipped through a page of the book, his voice lazy. Yes, I went yesterday. Haha. Jiang Xufeng sneered and remained silent for a while. Zhu Zhan thought he didn't give orders and was about to retreat outside the screen to guard when Jiang Xufeng said, "Go and take a look tonight." His Royal Highness the Crown Prince went to the Ruhua Garden tonight, and no one in the backyard was jealous. His mind was slightly clear, and he didn't know how to laugh at Song Liangdi behind his back. Song Liangdi doesn't care about that. She is overjoyed to know that her cousin is coming. It's preparing meals and changing into new clothes. Seeing Jiang Xufeng, Song Liangdi was already extremely excited, her eyes red and her voice trembling. She threw herself directly into Jiang Xufeng's arms and said, "Cousin." Jiang Xufeng slowly patted Song Liangdi's back and walked towards the room, holding her in his arms. Be careful of your feet," he said, listening to the familiar male voice in her ear. Song Liangdi suddenly felt a surge of grievances, tears streaming down her face. Jiang Xufeng was very patient, calming Song Liangdi's emotions. He inherited the advantages of Emperor Kant and the Empress in appearance, with narrow eyebrows, long eyes, and a high nose bridge. He usually looked gentle towards his wife and concubines. With this face on his face, he picked up some words that Song Liangdi loved to hear. In no time, Song Liangdi was coaxed and her mind was in a state of confusion. All her previous grievances were forgotten, and she nodded repeatedly at his words. After all, Wen is the Crown Princess. She always needs to manage this backyard well, and being alone is the best way to have no worries. Jiang Xufeng smiled. Sure is the most considerate of being alone. You should let the Crown Princess be more lenient. With loneliness, how can Sure be bullied? Song Liangdi blushed, her eyes mesmerized, and obediently replied, "Yes, cousin, rest assured, Sure knows." Song Liangdi was bedridden, and everyone thought she was about to shake again. But suddenly her attitude changed. She greeted her every day honestly, only using strange language and not acting like a demon. Wen Jing didn't have time to care about what was going on with the Song family. As April approached, banquets in various prefectures were about to be held, and Wen Jing had received several posts. The affairs in the backyard had not yet been established. She looked through the personnel records for several days in a row, carefully selected and asked the 4 maids around her to inquire, only then did she have a preliminary list of candidates. Wen Jing chose a time to meet, and 2 more posts were handed over from outside. One was handed over by Jiang from Wen Prefecture, and the other was a post from Princess Guangping. Happy New Year, babies. Requesting recommended tickets. Thank you for your support. End of this chapter.